Hi there again, YouTube. This is Ice9 with another Madden Mobile video, and gonna be covering positional heroes for the week. And we've got a quarterback and a middle linebacker, so two very important positions, obviously. And they announced the positional hero. Everybody was saying it's gonna be Carson Palmer. Which would have been a pretty cool card. Instead, they gave it to Brady, who had a mobile master last year. And what I guess I'll do too is let's take a look at the stats of the player. So, not very fast. Brady's a statue. That's no surprise. Not real strong. Not a really good running quarterback in general. 78 acceleration. 96 awareness, which is whatever for a quarterback. It's good for overall, but doesn't really do much for the quarterback position, which you use yourself. 100 throw power, so highest in the game, I believe, at this point, and definitely the best accuracy stats in the game with 99 short, 101 medium, and 98 deep, along with 100 throw power. That's going to be good for deep balls. It's going to be good for everything passing wise. And Brady really suits kind of the way I play, and I really did enjoy using Cam. And depending in the future, I'm not above changing again and trying to take a more mobile quarterback. But what I found on my legacy team last year, if some of you were playing, you might remember the Mobile Masters Mike Vick card. I used that. I used the Super Bowl honors Aaron Rodgers card, which was kind of an in between a guy like a Brady and a guy like a Vick. I used the Super Bowl version of Brady for a long time, and I kept going back to it near the end of Positional Heroes. I believe it was the last week they came out with the quarterback, who was Russell Wilson. And I really like Russell Wilson as a player, so I was really keen on trying him out. Ended up going back to a re-released Mobile Masters version of Brady, and as you can see, some of the stats here are pretty comparable to this positional hero version. He's a little faster. His throw accuracy short is a little bit higher, but basically it's a very similar type of card. So that's who I ended up with on my team, and just keeping that in mind that the same way football does reflect in Madden Mobile. Running around and being mobile is great if you can escape tackles, but with the way Madden Mobile is, unless you get really good at touch controls, I think it's hard to scramble as a whole. Although moving a little faster in the pocket will definitely get you out of trouble. So I think there is a place for Cam Newton, for the GT version of him, or Manziel, and I think in some ways those cards have some pretty substantial advantages over a Brady. But for the way that I play, making a quick read and a quick decision, Brady's probably going to work out just fine for me, although we will definitely see. So, set launched this morning. I already had the necessary elites in the gold. You'll notice I used one of the Super Bowl players, Eli Manning, as one of the players in the set, which was pretty cool. Didn't have to pay for that player, obviously. And stats look pretty good, but when the set came out and I saw the position collectibles started to hit the auction house, they have to be bought through packs, of course. And I tried my hand. I want to say I tried like 10 pro packs just to try to see if I could get anything. I got no collectibles, no elites, nothing. Pretty typical. So I'm like, all right, this is a waste of time. So I went back to the auction house and saw what was going on with the pricing of the collectibles. And one of the interesting things about that is, somebody, the first guy to bring the collectible to market, will ask a million coins or something, and then it'll just sit there, because he's the first one. And sometimes, somebody will take a bite and they'll just want to complete the set so bad that they'll jump on the first thing that they see. So there was one guy at 1 million, and then there were some at 500,000, and then they started to dip a little bit, and there were some low ones in there. So I ended up sniping a collectible for 300K, which was pretty, was cheap as compared to the market at that point, where they were going around 450,000 coins. At the upper 400,000 range they were sitting, and I managed to get a couple more at 425,000 coins. And my initial thing was just like everybody else, is I was trying to be somewhat frugal about the way I did the set, but not really, because I was trying to do the set the day it came out and was trying to do it extremely quickly. Well, seeing as I got one of the collectibles for pretty cheap, for 300,000 coins, and I had some quarterbacks that I sold for 6,000 coins this morning too, some extras. And basically, when I took a look at it, for what my cost was to build the player, even with the price that I had on collectibles, that I had paid this morning, which I had really paid a lot. I mean, you expect these collectibles to come down, but what I noticed is that the finished player at the auction house was selling for 3.5 million coins up, which was a lot more than the cost, what it takes to make them, even if the collectibles are over 400,000 coins a piece. So you think 400,000 coins times 3, that's 1.2 million coins. Then you've got quarterbacks. If you manage to get them the day before, you're spending between 2,000 and 3,000 coins per player, maybe less if you're really sniping them. Elite quarterbacks are everywhere before today, and they're going for nothing. You could get them for 8,000 coins. So the cost is really the collectibles. The players aren't too bad. 5 elite trophies, big deal. 50,000 coins max. Right about now, elites have come back down in price. So when I looked at the situation and looked what I bought him for, basically, I saw what the market was doing this morning at 3.5 million coins and up. And they were kind of sitting. One guy was asking like 5 million, and then 4.5 million, and then there were some that were hovering right about 3.5 million, 3.7 million, and which is just way too much of a profit even for the collectibles. That anybody who'd saved up the players beforehand, could build it himself cheaper. So what I decided to do, that I was just going to come in at a much more reasonable price of 2.8 million is what I sold them for. And that sold basically right away because I got in early. And then of course the market adjusted, and part of this is really going to be about the market for sure. You're looking up Larry Allen, and about what happens. And even though it's difficult in the off season to make coins, there are still opportunities. So you can see now. So I sold him for 2.8, and now he's sitting at 1.7. He is sitting at 1.75 million coins. And what I did was I bought him back later in the day. Waited a few hours. I had to wait. But I bought him back for 1.8 million coins. So that is one of those things where if you're one of the first to be able to complete a set, and you know what your cost is in terms of the collectibles and the players and etc., you can make a calculated decision on a set-based player like this to sell him and then buy him back. I know with the Barry Sanders card, I did not do that at all. I'm just too much of a Barry Sanders fan, I guess. But basically, with this card, I just saw the opportunity for profit, and I made almost 1 million coins off of it just by doing that, which is definitely time and effort well spent for sure. So that's what I did. And again, looking at his stats, I mean, he's not going to compare to a Cam Newton or someone like that in a lot of ways, but the throw accuracy and the throw power are really, really compelling for sure. agility and strength and speed boost are almost a joke for this guy. Even with the acceleration boosters, it gets him up to 79. But the basic thing with the quarterback, just like in the game, there are people that say, I argue with a friend at work all the time who says that the mobile quarterbacks like the Russell Wilsons and, players like that, Aaron Rodgers, all these kind of mobile quarterbacks are the way of the future, that there's no more room for the pocket passer. But just like in the game, just like in the NFL, if you've got a guy who's got a good mind, a quick release, a good arm, who's accurate, and who could make good decisions, which doesn't matter to Madden Mobile, but if you got somebody who could throw the ball accurately, this guy's going to be pretty good in the right person's hands because the football travels faster than someone's feet. So if you can make a throw before they get to you and make the right decision, then it doesn't really matter how fast the guy is. Still do think there is a place for Cam. And let's look at Cam's price right now and see what it's doing. I sold him last night. Did finally sell him for $3.2 million. Ouch. Big loss. So with the auction house tax, I lost a lot of coins. Fortunately, I made a lot of that back today, but it was an expensive experiment for sure. And he's still going for about 3.2 million coins. People like their mobile quarterbacks. So we'll look at all of these guys now. Let's look at quarterbacks in general, because there's not too many 99 quarterbacks. We're going to see some Tebows out there for sure. There's Cam, and there's Boss Vic. And Vic is generally running right around what Newton is going for, and somewhat of a similar card, but shorter and not as strong, left-handed, which may be a good or a bad thing. But pretty similar stats to Newton. I believe Newton's mid accuracy is quite a bit better, I want to say. Let's look at that. Yeah, 98 to 92 is actually a fairly big jump. There's Brady, of course. Great accuracy. Tebow, mid-80s, and I throw a lot of mid-range passes, so I can imagine that would be a problem for me. He's fast and strong, but the card's going under 1 million coins now. I've seen it. And let's see if we can find any GT Manziels out there. There's one. And he's bringing top dollar still. Great stats. Really, really good stats in terms of speed and everything. The height is a factor, and the fact that it's Johnny Manziel. Even if I had the coins, I don't know if I'd be interested. Oh, there's a Manziel dipping below 4 million, though. And that's really it for 99 quarterbacks at this time. So we got a lot of mobile options, and we got our pocket passer right here in Brady. And I would assume at some point Carson Palmer will get, I imagine he'll get a final edition card, and maybe the overalls of those cards will ramp up by the end of the year. So final edition or something like that, we'll probably see Carson Palmer. They got to see a card for Carson Palmer, maybe even a couple other quarterbacks. Mobile Masters, I'm not sure who's coming. If they redo a Culpepper or any of the other quarterbacks, they might be interesting to look at that they've done so far. McNabb or Elway or any of those cards might be pretty interesting as well. So that was a pretty long quarterback discussion. Let's go on to our second positional hero, which when I saw that today he was a 98, going back to doing 198, 199. And so this card here is kind of, it's a little disappointing, the Shazier card here. He's really, really fast and middle linebacker, and it's going to be hard to say how this guy's actually going to play, because his speed is 96, acceleration 95, so great physical, just in terms of physicality. This is a great middle linebacker. The coverages are decent at 79 and 86. This is pretty good. And you know what? We might as well take a look at middle linebackers in the same way. And just kind of look who's out there. We're going to be bombed with Clay Matthews. But so here's Lewis, who I have. Coverages are lower, as you can see. So is speed, so is strength. Tackle's really up there, and he's got a boost that's somewhat useless at this point. The Matthews card, you can see there's quite, excuse me, quite a bit of green over Lewis. The coverages are a little bit better. Play recognition on both the cards is 95, which is very, very high. Extremely good. Acceleration is great on this card. Not too fast. And that's really the only knock on the Matthews card. And let's try to get through the sea of Matthews here. Here's a Shazier. So under 700,000 coins, his collectibles and his player price is obviously a totally different ball game from Brady. Part of it's that he's 98, and also his play recognition is 89. So I figured with his card, based on the Team of the Week card that came out towards the end of the year, which was also really, really fast, pretty strong, good numbers, except for play recognition. So I'd assumed EA would do some of the same with him. And with 89, it's right on the borderline. It's kind of like in that bar type area, but he's not as tall as Barr. Although I guess at middle linebacker that doesn't matter as much. But I just don't know how good this guy is going to be with 89 play recognition. A lot of times when I get picked by a middle linebacker, it's not because he just caught up to the receiver and just suddenly picked it out of thin air. Usually when I get picked by a middle linebacker, it's on something like a crossing pattern, and he stepped right in front of the throw. He anticipated where the throw was going to be. So the physical attributes didn't matter as much as probably play recognition and awareness. Those two things are probably the most important thing. And last year there was a card, a Jack Lambert card from the Frozen event that was like this, where the guy wasn't real fast, his coverages weren't great, but his play recognition was 100, kind of like the boss Zach Thomas card is this year. So this guy was just a beast. You know, he was always in the wrong place. Well, wrong place if you're playing offense. At the wrong time. He was just always messing stuff up. He was very disruptive, and it was all because of the play recognition. It's a very, very important stat. And I would say even more than corners, which I'm always harping about, you know, this PLR stat for this guy or this PLR stat for that guy. I'd say PLR is probably the most important at the middle linebacker position because of that. They don't have to be super fast guys, but if they're in the right place positionally, it's going to make a big difference. Speaking of that, there's the 98 Zach Thomas card. Not a lot of options for linebackers. And we got to assume that EA is going to continue this thing of making Ultimate Legends 99s. I certainly hope they do. I hope they do not go back to making ULs 98s and making the bosses 99s. That would really, really suck in my opinion. But if they keep on doing 99 set-based UL players, hopefully at some point we'll get a Derek Brooks card or maybe a Lawrence Taylor or one of the other linebackers. A good coverage linebacker like a Brooks is usually a really good card. And we'll get somebody like that, because right now, at this point, this game is really lacking in really, really good coverage linebackers. I mean, Lee's really good. The Frozen Brooks and also the Super Bowl Brooks are both good cards. Barr's an okay card, even though his PLR is a little bit low. He still makes some plays. But there's not really a great 99 coverage linebacker in the game. As a matter of fact, besides Suggs, the boss version, which hardly anybody ever plays because his gameplay, he's so horrible on coverage. It's probably this guy, and I think his PLR is 90, I want to say, or low 90s, which is good, not great. Great pass rushing linebacker, and I think it's good to have one of them, but it's definitely good to have really good coverage linebackers. In the middle linebacker needs to cover too. So another change we've made to our team with the profit that we took today and the extra money we had left over from making the move to Cam Newton to the positional hero Brady is I got Lott's card here, and you can see how he boosts up pretty good. 93 play recognition is not as high as Dawkins, but his coverage boosts up to 99 zone. So I'm going to try him against Gronk is basically what I'm going to do. And his hit power's one less. They're both the same height. They're actually fairly similar cards. But I'm going to give Lott a try at that strong safety side for a couple reasons. One, his coverage is a little bit better, and people throw obviously to the tight end or to the strong safety side more than they do to the free safety side. And two, this guy can catch a little bit better. He's got 93 catch, boosted up, not bad for a safety, as opposed to 84 on Dawkins. So I think Lott will make more plays than Dawkins at that side, at the more used side, I guess you would say. Dawkins is still very good. Because of that, too, the player that went away was 98 Signature Reed. I had that card on my team since November, October. I don't know. It was a long time I had that guy free safety. And really, really good card. From what I've seen so far, Dawkins has showed up in film. He's been a good replacement. And I think the weakest coverage guy out of all of them is the hardest one to get. I think it's Chancellor is kind of the weakest cover of them. And even though he's taller, and I was hoping that he'd make plays, I've noticed he has made plays in Hall of Fame. He's made some plays. Dawkins has made more plays. On his side, he's definitely made more plays. And if you look at it, Cam's coverages are not really good, and his play recognition is not quite as good, and his catch isn't quite as good as either Dawkins or Lott. So because of that, he gets put in the dime. It's a good place to hide him, so to speak, and it's a good position for him. And unfortunately, one of my favorite players in the NFL, and this set was an absolute pain in the ass to do, but now he's a dime player for me, which is unfortunate but true. So that is basically it. Just wanted to cover those things. And what else can we do here? Let's do a team review because I don't get to everybody. And let's cover Leo's team. And Leo and I go way back. And league championships, Leo typically kicks my ass. I will just say. He finds a play that I have uncountered, and he just absolutely wallops on me, and he executes. And it doesn't matter if it's back when we were playing in all-pro settings. There were times where I'd put up 24 and score in 17 seconds, which isn't bad, and then he'd put up 24 and score in 15 seconds. He's just really good, this guy. But let's take a look at his team here, and we see a lot of players that I've had on my team before. I ran McNabb at one time before I got road to the playoffs Brady, and I think Leo prefers a little bit more of a mobile quarterback, and you can see McNabb boosts up pretty good in terms of speed, strength, agility, and acceleration. And he's definitely more elusive than Brady, who is a statue. Let's face it. He doesn't have Barry yet. I know Barry Sanders is one of his favorite players. Hopefully he's working on this set because I think he'll really like Barry. He's got quite a few speed boosters. At least he's got 2 on his team. He's got CJ2K running at halfback, boosted up to 99 speed. He's got Emmett running halfback though, and then he's got Watkins on his team as well. He's got the tier sevens. He's got Gronk. He's got a lot of road to the playoff linemen, which are not too bad at all, especially Lane Johnson, which this guy plays way over his stats. I think his base card is a 93 or something like that, but his stats are really, really pretty good. He's very fast, really good acceleration, and really high run and impact block. He boosts himself, so that's still a really good card to play, even though that's the card right now that's holding me down to 103 offense, I would say. Moving over to the defense, Kuechly at middle linebacker, not a bad choice, good coverage, and pretty high play recognition. He's got Lee running, and what I'd say to him, depending on what he wants to do, I throw a lot of crossing patterns. So for those types of plays, Lee is actually in a pretty good spot. But I would sooner see him probably flip these two guys, Bullware and Lee, but he could do what he wants. He beats my ass all the time, so he can obviously do what he wants. Got a really good card here that you don't see too much, but it's still a really good card, Justin Tuck. And the knock on these cards is always block shed, more of a finesse defensive end. But he's a really good player and has been for a long time and pretty good on a budget. Got a nice awareness booster here in Donald, taken away from agility. That's a pretty good trade-off. And he just went with final edition Vontae here. And play recognition's a little bit low, but I guarantee you in Hall of Fame or all Madden play, this guy's going to show up. Got the 98 version of Sean Taylor. Not a bad card at all. And he's got Atwater, which is still a pretty good card. LT, I'll watch highlight films of Lawrence Taylor, so it's not like I'm not a fan of Lawrence Taylor. I mean, there's a guy who put together 15-minute clips of Taylor stopping the run, which is just incredible. I mean, the guy was an incredible player, but I do think that he belongs somewhere else but on his team. Ty Law at the nickel is a pretty good choice, and then he's got Pat Pete. And I thought he had at one point, the combined version of Pat Pete, but maybe I'm wrong. But pretty good looking team. I would say in terms of that, upgrading, I would go after another linebacker first. Maybe the middle linebacker, although Kuechly's not too bad at all. Makes plenty of plays against me, that's for sure. Eventually, maybe thinking about putting a Peppers there at defensive end, or maybe even just going up to one of the 98 cards from Tuck, even though he's pretty good. That'll increase his overall too. I'd like to see him get... Knighton's not a bad card, actually, at all, but I'd like to see him get maybe Short in there, defensive tackle. He's not too much money. He's got Dion, that's pretty good. Safeties look okay for the time being. Definitely, even though it's a 3-4, either get a booster here at the 3-4 position or get a better linebacker or drop one of the other cards, maybe Bullware, down to the 3-4. And that is basically it. Maybe think about putting a safety up here instead of Pat Pete, who I know he really likes as a player. And he'll definitely make some plays up there. He's fairly strong for a corner, so not a bad choice, but maybe put a safety up there or something. And that is about it. But pretty good team in general. And one of the things that's always true is no matter how good your team is, if somebody can play, they can play, and they can beat your ass. It'll always happen, Overall is definitely not everything, but what it comes down to as well. Overall it's fun to look at, but, you got to enjoy playing the game. It is, after all, a game. And, I do enjoy building a team. And then I just got to figure out how to play a little bit better at some points, I guess I would say. And going into that, too, we might as well hit another subject, even though I know it's been a really long video. in general. We're playing a league right now, NFL Elite, and they were complaining really early on about spamming. And this is how he started the conversation. I almost hoped setting up a counter would prevent the cheap ass spam play, was hopeful for a minute when he realized, but then he went straight back to spamming. Good game, dumbass. So, not the most cordial guy. And this is what I don't understand. Okay, so EA in league season and during the course of the year has banned either 3-day bans or permanent bans on teams and players for various offenses. Okay, so some of these offenses are when it's proven that a league force closes, when a bunch of guys have no plays or turnovers on their game film in a match and the other league complains about it, especially when it was in league season. Then EA will reset the game, count it as a loss, take away all their points, do whatever. They'll basically give them a loss, they'll do whatever. Another thing is airplane mode, and there was another thing people were doing for a while too, uninstalling the game after every play or some kind of process. I'm not exactly sure, but the point is so you could uninstall the game and basically redo a play. So whereas force closing or closing out of the app when you throw a pick, when you think it's going to be a pick six or something like that, that'll count as a turnover and you'll lose the drive. You'll basically lose that 8 points for the drive. Whereas with this method, apparently, it acts like that play didn't happen, apparently. So EA found out about those things. There are ways to find out about things like that in airplane mode, and they ban teams for that in league season. One thing that EA has never banned is spamming a play, running the same play twice. But these guys, the NFL Elite, have a problem with it, or at least a couple of them do. I assume there's a lot of nice guys in the league, just like I think most people in general try to be nice. Most people, not definitely all. There's obviously exceptions, but most people are not so bad. So I tried to, basically hold off, and my kind of attitude is, well, let's just beat their ass and say nothing. Papa Raider got into it. Here's somebody, who's actually trying to be pretty decent about it. And then Joe making excuses. So we're not going to go into all this kind of gossipy type of nonsense, but I just wanted to come out on spamming. And, people who've watched my videos know that I spam a play. And I will gladly spam a play if I know it's uncountered. And what I would say, and I kind of said here at the bottom, is my thoughts on it. I think they should get rid of the counter system. Auto counter every repeated play and make the defenses more dynamic. That would sound good to me, and it would sound good to me. Then your defense would actually matter more, and then it would force players to not get target fixated, but like I do a lot of times, taking that crossing tight end, coming across the middle of the field. If there's two guys on him on this play and not on the next play, then that's going to force me to adapt, and I'm all for that. What I'm not all for, and what I have a problem with this guy and other people who think that they play the game so much better than everybody else and they know how to properly play this game, is don't grief other people for things that EA is not banning them for. EA does not ban players or leagues for spamming plays. And if you look at the 24-player bracket, certainly in the finals and in the playoffs, you'll see players spamming plays. That is what they're doing. So if you want to have the game played a different way, this is one of those things. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Contact EA, tell them to change it, tell them to fix it, tell them to make it more interesting for you, but don't blame people for utilizing the game that's given to them. You know, it's not cheating, that's for sure. So that is my very long video for the day, and thanks for watching. Anything you want to see, definitely let me know. A shout out as usual to Poperator. He's in my YouTube subscriptions as well. Thanks for watching.